Hello, everyone. Today I'm going to talk about a piece of your wheelchair that is not talked about very often. So if you don't have it on your wheelchair now, it'll be important when you update it, when you evaluate your wheelchair to see if it's time really to get an upgrade on your wheelchair. There's a piece that might be really important for you, and it's called a bracket. I will put a picture of it right here, up there, of a bracket. And manual wheelchairs have them, and power wheelchairs certainly have them. And this is a piece that's important especially because if you're going to be using vans, if you're going to be using buses, they're going to be tying you down. And I will also talk about tie downs and what they're all about. But brackets, if you don't know what that is, it's a loops that are welded onto your power or manual wheelchair, and or screwed onto your power wheelchair. And I really want to encourage everyone to be familiar with brackets, because I think that what is going to happen, especially with aviation, you might not be a person who is planning on flying, but I think when the industry starts to update and starts to put that special spot for us to fly, I think they're going to use tie downs, which we'll talk about in a moment. But they're going to need brackets, and they're going to ask for all wheelchairs to have brackets, which is a high probability. And they might install both systems, the bolt system and the brackets and the tie downs. So we'll look at all three so that you know which is which. All right, let's talk about the brackets for a moment. For power wheelchairs, it's a kind of an all-one piece that they put underneath the seat, and they bolt it down. And they're heavy-duty metal, so on the bus or in a van, there are straps in a van called tie downs, and they have they're straps, and they have heavy-duty hooks on them, and they'll hook the seat, the wheelchair, and then they'll tighten those straps, and then the wheelchair is buckled down. And those are really important for safety. And I think a lot of you out there already are familiar with the brackets and are familiar with the tie downs, because you do it a lot. When I go into a van, initially I would say, yes, I have brackets. And they would say, where? We can't see it. Oh. And of course the brackets were black, and my wheelchair is mostly black, so they couldn't see it. So I'm like, come on, guys. But so I put some strips, some reflective strips on my brackets. So now they see it automatically and say, oh, there it is, and then they put the tie downs on. All right. So I think especially for those who are planning to and are hoping and have their fingers crossed that they'll be able to fly soon once the airlines actually installs, and it could be Delta's model of having us be able to drive directly onto an airplane, and they will tie us down. So they'll use those straps that are already being used in vans and buses and trains. So that's why I want to encourage you, if you are in the market for purchasing a new wheelchair, whether it's a manual or a power, please request from the company or your therapist to add brackets onto your wheelchair. And there's different models for different wheelchairs, but brackets are going to be crucial. The other model are bolts. Now, the problem with those is that not all power wheelchairs and not all manual wheelchairs can have a bolt installed, because it has to do with the distance between the bottom of the wheelchair and the ground. My power wheelchair cannot have a bolt. because the distance is not appropriate. I think I only have 2.5 inches between the ground and the bottom of my wheelchair. So if I were to go in the grass, I would get stuck royally. Here's the bolt. They install a very thick bolt underneath, and then and I'll put an example up there, but there's a box that gets screwed onto the bottom of a van, and you can drive onto it, and the bolt slips into this box, which has a V in there, and then it locks the wheelchair in because it closes automatically. So, and I'll put an example up there because I know my fingers are probably not in the right place, but and so this little box, you have to really aim it directly into that box so the bolt slips in and the box locks it. So I doubt that the airlines will be using that type, but a lot of vans have them, and wheelchair users who drive have that system. And again, certain wheelchairs like mine cannot use a bolt. So that's really important. I don't think this will work in all situations, but the brackets will in all situations. So it's more universal. So my encouragement between brackets and between the bolt system, and you can have both on your wheelchair. You can have brackets and the bolt. But again, if you're going to go into mud and hiking and stuff like that, the bolt might be kind of in the way. So it's kind of tricky to say bolt or brackets, but I would do the brackets, hands down. It's more universal. Tie downs, and you'll say, Lisa, what on earth are tie downs? Because we talked about the bolt. You have to have a wheelchair that is, the bottom of the wheelchair is 3 inches above the ground to be able to use a bolt system. And I'm sure I put an example somewhere up there. But with tie downs, it doesn't matter how tall or close to the ground you are for the tie down bracket system. The tie downs, what are the tie downs? Okay, so the tie downs are the straps. They're kind of like airline type straps, and then they have heavy hooks on the end of them, really heavy duty metal hooks, and so they pull up the strap from the floor and they hook it onto your wheelchair, and they tighten them so that the straps are holding your wheelchair in place. So it's very universal. I think that's what the airlines is going to be using. Vans, for the most part, have that system. And let's see what else. Trains and buses use them. So I think your best bet right now is to use the bracket tie-down system. And you can talk to your therapist about that. Again, you can have both. But it depends on the purchase of the wheelchair and how much, little add-ons that they'll allow and that kind of thing. But you never can fail with the bracket system. So on your wheelchair, they'll install the brackets and you're set. So for safety reasons, in general, I would not go without the bracket system. And they'll use the tie downs. And the tie downs are the straps that are screwed onto the floor and have heavy hooks at the end. And those are pulled up from the floor and hook your wheelchair in place. So I just wanted to talk about that piece of technology. Not everyone is aware. So I wanted to throw that in for Wheelchair Tech Friday. And make sure that if you're in the market for a wheelchair, don't forget brackets. And those are the loops on manual wheelchair. Chairs, they look like loops that they put on certain areas of the manual wheelchair. And you don't see them much. They're just metal, really very strong material. And they just put it on they weld it onto the wheelchair. And on power wheelchairs, again, it's a plate where the four brackets are connected to each other. They put it underneath the seat, and they they screw that down. I'm sure they do it with machinery, so to make sure that those brackets are always in place and will never move or get loose. So I don't see how they could, because they're on the plate, the seat, and then the underneath the seat, and then the seat goes on top and gets screwed on. So there's no way those brackets are moving. I had to laugh everybody when I would say, yes, I have brackets. And they would say, well, where? They couldn't find my brackets, and they're pretty big. So I put some reflective material on my brackets. So now there's no question. They're white reflective material on my brackets. So in your manual wheelchair, you might want to color them a different color so that they're visible. And because they'll be the same color as the frame. So sometimes it'll be hard for them. Where are your brackets? So I just wanted to throw that out there. If you still have questions about brackets, bolts, and tie downs, please let me know. But I think the pictures will be looking familiar to you, especially for those who already have experiences with brackets and tie downs. But if you're a little confused still, that's okay. Talk to your therapist, write it down. Just say, I would appreciate if in the purchase of the wheelchair, if we could make sure I have brackets so that I can use the tie downs. Because I really do think, folks, that that's the system they're going to use in airplanes. And that'll be great. Then we'll be prepared. But it's possible that they will be asking for all wheelchairs to have brackets. So I think that needs to be a universal thing now for all wheelchair manufacturers to just put out wheelchairs with brackets to make sure, that safety aspect of the wheelchair is just there from day one, and it will be able to be used in so many settings. So post your questions, or if you want to talk about, your brackets, your style of brackets, or if you added them on later, how did you do that? Or you don't care if your wheelchair has brackets or not, because some of us can't get out. So I get out from time to time, but I use the brackets all the time. So post your questions, your experiences with brackets and with tie downs, and the bolt system. If you use the bolt system, talk about the bolt system, and that way we'll all learn about the importance of bolt system. But the bolt system can only be for wheelchairs that are 3 inches above the ground. From the bottom of the seat to the ground, it needs to be 3 inches for that bolt to be able to be added to the wheelchair. So, and it's not all wheelchairs. So anyway, any questions, any experiences, feel free to post it down below, and to look at my videos that will be posted somewhere over here. Feel free to subscribe. We're working towards the 300 mark. So just jump in. All right. Be well, be safe, and I'll see you in the next one.